Hey VC, this is The-Vinyl-Dreamscape. Somebody told me or suggested to me that I should make an introduction video, so I thought I'd give it a go. Been kind of lingering around the community for a few months and thought it was about time that I came out in the open and kind of showed why I got into collecting records. I've been collecting records since I was since a boy. I have a collection of probably about 1,500 records, something like that. Not a really big collection. I keep it pretty well curated and down to stuff that I listen to. There's some real experts in the community, and that's pretty intimidating. So I'm not sure I have the expertise of some of the people that I've watched videos, and some folks are really impressive and do an amazing job in providing information and their love and passion of music. I have the love and passion. I'm not sure I have the depth of insight that some members do. But in a way of kind of introducing myself, I thought I would just provide a little hint at kind of where I'm coming from. I like all kind of genres, electronic music and rock music and punk music, and my roots go back to metal, and my first band I ever loved was Kiss, and I still have all my Kiss records. I wouldn't give them up. But one area that I don't think I've seen anyone get into too much was the area of electronic albums that Miles Davis did. And I think everyone's pretty much familiar with Bitches Brew, which is a great intro to this portion of Miles Davis's career. In fact, I wouldn't really consider myself a big Miles fan other than this period, starting kind of around this time with Bitches Brew. This is an amazing record, and really turned my head on to combining electronic funk with jazz and rock and fusion, and making something that I think is truly unique and really hasn't been done better. But if you're going to embark on this course, don't stop with Bitches Brew. There are other albums to jump into, and one of the most important, I think, is On the Corner. And this is an album I don't hear people talk about a lot. It's very, very funky, very much taking the avant-garde path into jazz, but I wouldn't even really call this jazz. It's going on another course, incorporating funk and rock and fusion in an even more dissonant way than Bitches Brew did. And it's an amazing record, and you don't see many of these in the marketplace, but if you do, this is an album well worth checking out. You read a lot of things about it, that it's not accessible in some way, and I just disagree with that. I think it's very accessible. Next, I would say that if you're going to move there, you really can't miss this record. Big Fun is the next step, I think, along that electronic course where Miles starts incorporating aspects of Middle Eastern music, lots of electronic music, funk music, and really inspired by some of the more, avant-garde players out there. And the fact that somebody of Miles' status was willing to take chances like this, when his public probably wanted him to, make Kind of Blue again and again and again, an album that I've owned. I've had a mono 6i, that I sold because that's not what I'm looking to hear from Miles. There was a time for that music, but I've moved on, and it just never really did it for me. And so this era of Miles is the one that I really think you need to listen to. But there's one more record that if you're going to embark along that course of Miles' career, is an album I think that's really overlooked, which is this Tutu. You won't hear a lot of people talk about this record, and this came later. This was 1986, I think, and it really got overlooked at the time. It didn't get a lot of reviews, and I wouldn't say it's a great record. Of course, it comes in again with one of those like amazing cover shots that this era of Miles had. But there are aspects of this record that I think make it worthwhile. Most of it is stuck very much in kind of that 80s drum sound, that 80s sound. Miles playing, of course, is great, and it sails over the top with all of it. But there's two tracks on here. The first, the opening track, Tutu, and the next track, Tomas, really hint at Miles going places that were never really fulfilled, and then he never really had a chance. Maybe because this wasn't as successful as he wanted. Maybe because he was at that point in his career where he wasn't prepared to go it alone and take those kind of chances. But those two tracks really hint at Miles moving towards a kind of electronic sound, almost a kind of clubby sound, or techno-y sound. Not completely on board with that, but they hint at it. I think the rhythms and the beats of it really suggest a way forward for this. And I used to hear this record in clubs in Detroit occasionally. There were DJs who would throw one of those two tracks on just to mix things up. And the way it blended with, Detroit techno and Detroit house music, the end of the 80s and in the first part of the 90s, it was like one of those tracks that everyone would go, who's this? It was different, but it blended in so nicely. And then you find out it's Miles Davis. And it really blew my mind. And I think a lot of people. And I used to listen to, there used to be a show on Detroit Public Radio back in the days when public radio was something that really ventured in unique areas. And there was a late night show that we used to listen to. And by late night, I mean that I think the show started at 2 a.m. and went till 4 or something like that. Back in those days, those were club hours. And sometimes on the way home, or listen to that show, or I'd record it and listen to it later. And it would mix amazing stuff like Miles with Carl Craig and Detroit techno music and industrial music like Laibach and things like that, and then with goth and rock, and it was an amazing time and an amazing mix of things. And this was a part of that. This worked its way in there, and I think turned a lot of people on its head. So if you're looking for a place to go, don't expect a great record. I wouldn't call this a great record, but it hints at something, and it's worth it for that. And there are two, like I say, there are two great tracks, Tomas being the one you've absolutely got to hear, that I think really is overlooked in this catalog. So that's kind of like these 4 records. It's really the only Miles Davis that I own is these, because other stuff, I'm not saying it's not good, and if you like it, that's fantastic. But for me, beginning with Bitches Brew, you want to investigate this era that gets overlooked so much, that if you read about it, people will tell you, oh, it's difficult, it's hard to get into, and this is not difficult music to like. Yeah, it's incorporating drone and electronic and Middle Eastern sounds, yeah, but in such a great way that I would say don't be afraid of these records. And I think some people shy away from them and head towards the more, bop and all that aspect, the 50s jazz sound, daddy jazz or whatever you want to call it, sounds. And that's cool, nothing wrong with that if you like that stuff, but check this out and don't overlook this. So it was just kind of a little brief introduction. I'll try to make some more videos, try to do things that I think help, keep people informed. I was reluctant initially to make videos just because I truly do admire some of the work that a few other stations are doing. I don't want to mention anybody because I don't have their permission or authorization to do that, and I don't want to bandwagon on what they do. But I've admire the knowledge that some people have, and hope to learn more, and maybe even turn a few people on to some music that I like too. So anyway, my name is Shawn, and I'm the Vinyl-Dreamscape, and thanks for watching.